Tim, would you like to say a word or two very briefly before we get started? And unmute yourself.
But be gentle.
How about that?
That works.
Okay, my mic wasn't turned on. I want to thank everybody for being here and being on time. There's so much to do tonight. Excited to see all of this. I've spent some money on my own, so hopefully I look good. So anyway, I want to learn more how to look better. So thank everybody for being here. We're going into the holiday season. It's so busy. So just thanks a lot for spending the time to invest in yourself.
Now, folks, I invite you to give him feedback offline. Does he look good or not?
You don't want that feedback.
No, you don't want this, right? Welcome, everyone. I am Nikki McQuiston, for those folks who may not know me, past president of the NSA chapter and the coordinator of Fireside Chats and co-chair of the forum. And it is always an absolute delight reaching out to our friends, many of whom are some of the most distinguished and effective and talented speakers we have within the entire NSA system. And one of the things, because it's the future. I mean, being virtual is not something that is going to go away. It may have been accelerated by the pandemic, but certainly it existed before, and that is giving virtual meetings and really not only looking good, but sounding good and having your environment match that. But this is here to stay. And so we looked at the folks who really know what they're doing when they're on stage to see how that would translate when it's virtual. And so we invited some of our very best members of the chapter to be able to address this. Because what we're going to be taking a look at, and forgive me just a quick second. What we're going to be taking a look at are the whys and wherefores, the do's and don'ts. How can you set up your virtual environment so that it works? And one of the things I really want to emphasize is that there really is no one right way. It's taking a look at some universal principles with lighting, with equipment, with you, that works for you and matches what your client wants as well. And so each one will be sharing very different information and some of the same, because each one has been very, very careful in researching what works for them and what works for their clients. So remember that, no one right way. So what we hope is that this is kind of a buffet and you're choosing the healthy food to put on your plate from the selections that you have. We've sent you handouts. If not, you'll be receiving them. And by the way, we are recording this session, the first time we've done this for Fireside Chat, because everyone in our chapter will get a copy of this so you can refer back to it and really use it. We ask you to mute yourself. If you have a question or comment, you can go to the chat. We're going to take a quick stand-up break and there'll be time for questions throughout. And if you like, we might stay a little bit extra tonight, but we should be finished at about 8:30. So with that, it is a pleasure. You know, when I say it's great to introduce friends, everyone who is on this Zoom meeting is a close personal friend. And so we've shared a lot of ideas and coffee and iced tea, and sometimes wine even, and I've learned from them. Our first presenter is someone that you know who is an absolute ball of fire. CSP CPAE Connie Podesta. And when she speaks to her audiences, she changes lives. She transforms people because of the substance that she brings to it. And not only substance, I think she has a rare blend of humor along with that substance and content, and a personality that she tap dances her way across the stage, in a sense, to make her points. She has spoken in the last 25 years to 2 million people, 1,000 organizations. She is an award-winning author of 7 books. She's a former radio TV personality and a human relations expert. Plus, she's been a therapist for 30 years. So when I say transform lives, she really does. And she focuses on sales, on leadership, on change, and life balance, and how to put that all in a way that makes sense. Help me welcome Connie Podesta.
Hello, hello. Well, NSA, it's great to have you all. And I am very, very honored to be with these other three gentlemen that you're going to hear later on. And I know all of them. I mean, Jim and I have known each other forever. And I guess Jim and Vince, Yorm, I don't know so well, but he's amazing. And I have to tell you all, this was a little scary because I got a sneak peek of everything that they're going to do for all of you tonight. And I can see why I was first. I was first because I have the least amount of time invested in my setup. I have the least amount of money invested in my setup, and I have the least amount of effort invested in my setup. I will say this, I do not have the least amount of thought. And I probably put as much thought as anyone else that spent more and did more. And so that's probably where I'm going to start with you, is before we go through anyone's sets tonight, let me be your therapist a little bit and talk to you about, and Licky said it, there's no right or wrong with a set. It's not like mine's the right way or somebody else. Your set has to reflect you. Just like when you were on stage, what you did, what you wore, how you acted, what you chose to do. Some of us painted and some of us stood in our hands and some of us used amazing PowerPoint and some of us walked into the audience. And I think tonight it isn't about what you should do, because all four of us have done very, very different things. And yet all four of us are fairly successful, I would like to think, even in this crazy world that we never, ever imagined in our lives. So let me talk about the thought. When this happened, March 19th was my last job. By the way, last week I booked my first live job in front of like 1,000 people, and it is for March 19th of 2021. So I find that kind of interesting that to go on a stage again for the first time in front of thousands of people will be almost a year to the day. So March 19th, San Diego, I got on the airplane. Airplane was not very full. The bars and the restaurants, in the airport, nothing was very full. It was just hitting us all then, I think in Dallas, it had hit other people first. But when I got home, I remember saying to my husband, oh, this will probably take a couple of weeks. This will be over. And then within the next 2 weeks, I had 22 jobs canceled. So all of a sudden by April, and I'm probably the same as a lot of you, all of a sudden my world, and I know that my intro said 25 years, but it's really been 35 years. I need to change that. So for 35 years, I've gotten on airplanes, I've stayed in hotels, I've gotten on stage, and I've talked to people. And my delivery style is probably very unique and different. Most of you know that. I don't use PowerPoint. I don't use slides. I don't have panels. I don't do a lot of pre-work. I'm a comedian. I'm a therapist. I'm an actress. I like improv. So the reason that I think I was successful, and one of the things that set me apart, was the fact that I didn't do what most people and most other speakers do. And so it made it a little different. So when I realized that I wasn't going to be on stage for a while, I did exactly what very dysfunctional, unhealthy people do, even though I'm a therapist and I teach people how never to do this. So I whined and I cried and I said a couple of bad words and I said it's unfair and I resisted it. The first two jobs that called me that asked me if I would switch my contract to virtual, I said no. Because I was like, I can't do that. That's not me. And so luckily for me, they went ahead. And so April and May, I am doing those two clients. But I literally said no to work, which I've never done in 35 years of my life. After about 10 days, however, and hopefully for all of you, it happened. At some point, we have to stand back and pull up our big boy, big girl pants, I guess, and say to ourselves, like Nikki said, I have a couple choices here. I'm either going to stay in business, and if I do that, I'm going to have to figure out how to do it the way that's being allowed to do it now. And I have to stop moaning and griping and complaining because I can't do it my way anymore. So at the moment I realized that virtual was going to be a part of my life, I then looked at everybody who was doing virtuals. And of course, some of the most innovative and brilliant people were the first ones. And they were posting it on Facebook and pictures. And I mean, within days, they had green screens and they had transformed entire second floors of their home into production studios. And some had spouses that were producing. I mean, these amazing things were going on around me. And so I did again what a therapist should never do when I teach people. I got back down thinking, but I can't do that. But this is where the thought came in, because someone very close to me, in fact, several people very close to me said, but Connie, that isn't what you do anyway. I mean, why are you, all the people that are doing these, you know, huge production things and pre-recorded and studios everywhere and all the amazing things you're going to see, which are amazing and incredible. And you're going to see most of the people that did it tonight who are amazing. It isn't what I ever did. I never, ever did what anyone else did. And that's where your thought has to come first. It isn't which is right for you or what's the right virtual setup or what's the right equipment. It's what's right for you. So the very first thing I'll tell you is whatever made you incredible on stage, don't lose that. That is your connection to your audience. And so what made me, I think, amazing in my own little small world way was the fact that I interacted with people. I can do improv. I can go in the audience and have no idea what anyone's going to say. I can bring people up on stage, have no idea how anyone's going to respond. I can formulate things and dialogues and connections right at the spur of the moment with no idea, no outline, no anything. So once I thought that through, then I realized I don't need all the rest of it. But what I do need is about 15 people on screen. What I absolutely need is to never do what I'm doing now, okay? I can hear it in my voice. For me to speak right now to a screen and not be able to interact with people, it's like I want to talk to Tim and I want to talk to Riz and I want Nikki to get off of her and put her video on and I want to talk to them. So I decided that my backdrop was irrelevant. I wanted it to be peaceful. I wanted it to be calm. I wanted it to be clean and neat. But what I really wanted was 15 people on the screen. So as I go through my studio, I want you to realize that my thought behind why I did what I did and not do what these other incredible speakers did was not because I was cheap. I had the money. It wasn't because I didn't have the time. I had tons of time. I wasn't going anywhere. It was literally because for what I do, I needed just to talk to people. Now, at first I thought I should stand because I always use a handheld mic. And so the very first paid job I did, I stood. And I have to say, for me, I felt stupid, which is weird because I had been standing in front of thousands of people my whole entire life, but I didn't like it. And I couldn't see the people. I had 10 people. And when I'm standing, I couldn't see who they were. And I'm bending over. So I realized for the first time in my life, I will be sitting. So some of the speakers you're going to hear and some of the speakers you watch, they would never sit. So again, it isn't whether sitting's right or wrong or standing's right or wrong. It all boils down to what kind of connection, what makes you successful, what makes you important. Some of the speakers, a couple of them tonight, I can't even imagine them. I mean, their whole energy comes from standing and talking and engaging and doing. So if you are somebody that likes to interact, if you're somebody that wants people on the screen, if you're somebody that talks to people and wants a dialogue and a connection, then all the stuff is less important to you than the speakers that are using so many incredible techniques and stage and props and backdrops for theirs. So not right or wrong, what do you want? So if you're going to be like me, and you're going to interact with people, then it's probably is more comfortable for you to sit. I will tell you one thing about a chair. I have a great chair over here. It's a great high back chair. And at first I used it, but number one, it cut off my signs. Number two, it's a swivel chair, and I'm ADHD, I'm sure, and probably need serious medication. And so the whole time I was talking, I'm swiveling in my chair and I'm bouncing back and forth. And I saw my first video, was like, oh, well, that was terrible. And so I went out literally, I'm going to stand up here, which we decided before we can't do, and bought a $25 at Bed Bath & Beyond folding chair. And the reason why I did is because when I'm in my office, I use my great chair. But for sitting, I did not want the back of my chair to be seen by anybody. So now let's go to the office. For those of you that heard me a while back, you'll know that I did everything for my backdrop for $680. Okay, that's everything, $680. And I will start out, I got a Brio camera that's right here in front of me. It was $220. I got a Yeti microphone, which my friend Jim Pensero told me about, and it's right here in front of me. And I think that was $130. I got 2 ring lights, one here and one here. And if you don't think lighting is important, let me turn these off real quick. Let's see. Okay, this is me without 2 lights, and each of those lights is $45 a piece. And I can't tell you how many people I'm watching presenting and on their screen that rather than spend $90 have decided that we're going to have to look at them in the dark. So huge difference, not only to your hair, to your face, to your attitude, to your smiles, to your personality. Those were $90 for 2. I did get a gooseneck, and I think that was, let me look at it, it was $29. A gooseneck means that I have a terrible time looking straight in the camera because I have all sorts of people. So I'm up here looking at Tim and Russ and all of this, and I kept getting feedback, Connie, we want to see you look straight in the camera. And it was very hard to get this camera. I had a tripod and it would slide and fall and all sorts of things. So I did get a gooseneck, which I can't show you, but it's just a little curvy thing, and that was $29. I then started by painting one wall of my office because I didn't know what I wanted to do to this room. So I always tell people, all you need to do is take care of one wall. I now have 2 walls that look good, okay? So I've expanded a little bit and put a lamp. So I painted the walls. That's about $40 for paint. I bought the Live Simply and the Just Breathe signs online, and together they were less than $7. The chair was in another room. The lamp is demolished on one side. I went into Lamps Plus, and it's terrible on the other side, but I'm only showing half of it anyway, so no one sees it. I got the apple from a room, and that storage place over there was also broken in the back, and I don't care. So for about $675, $680, I have cameras, I have great microphones, I have great lighting, and I have a backdrop that for me is simple. Another thing I thought about when I was doing my backdrop, because I have to tell you, my office used to be lots of, well, my CPA thing. Okay, that's huge for me. I mean, it was sitting right in the back, and all the books I wrote were sitting in the back. There was a lot of me, which is okay because it was surrounding me. But I also had to make a decision now that I'm talking to hundreds and sometimes 1,000 people. Do I want my backdrop to reflect me and tell them about me, or do I want my backdrop to reflect how I want them to feel? And my answer for me was that I didn't want it anymore. I didn't want to talk about my awards or my books or what I've written. And again, that's for me. That's not everybody. Some of the people, some of you that are speaking, your awards and your trophies and your books, those are huge, okay, for your reputation. For me, who's doing fun and dialogue, my reputation is going to speak for itself because of the interaction and the way we're doing things. So I got rid, now my books are still there, my CPA trophy is still there. I mean, all the things that mean something to me, but I don't feel a need to share any of that with my audience. So for my audience, my goal was to create the most peaceful, less cluttered. I have to say, a lot of the people that I coach now on doing rooms, everything is so cluttered that I want you all to know that psychologically, when someone's talking to you or you're talking to them, your backdrop, they may not look at each piece by piece, but your backdrop will psychologically affect them. Is it busy? Because if it's busy, where my Live Simply sign is right there in the back, used to be a picture over here of Portofino, and it meant a lot to me. It's where my husband and I went on our honeymoon. I loved it. But people were putting in the chat room, where is that? Is that in Italy? Is that in? And all of a sudden I'm like, they're looking at the picture. Okay, they're trying to figure out where the picture is. And I just gave them a great technique for how to get along with idiots that are telling you what to do. So I didn't want my audience to be distracted. And the only thing they can see now is Live Simply and Just Breathe. And both of those are messages that I think are important. It's okay if they read those. Now, the other thing is the other extreme, which is to have nothing behind you, which you need to understand psychologically is also very disturbing for the mind, because to have nothing doesn't tell your audience anything about you. And your backdrop, let's face it, it's a reflection of who you are. And some people say, well, I don't care what people think. Well, that's bull, because I think what people think about us, especially in this business, does change. And it does affect whether people believe in us or listen to us or take what we say as the truth. So I want you to really think, no matter whether you use a whole pre-recorded studio and it's green screens, or it's just your own office like I did, I want you to look at your backdrop, and I want you to ask yourself, if my audience is looking at this, what feeling is this bringing to them? Is this making them feel nervous and they wish they could go in and throw half of it away and get rid of some of it? Is it making them feel that they should come in and decorate for you and paint your wall or put something up? Is it making them wonder who you are? Or is it making them, my goal for a backdrop is to have something that once they take it in, they never notice it again. Once they take it in, then all they're doing is listening. And this next thing is, I never spotlight myself like we're doing now, ever spotlight myself. And so speaking and not interacting and me being big is very uncomfortable for me. When I always have 10 to 15 people on the screen, I never have my square any bigger than any of the other people. And again, it's about what image are you trying to give? What I want to say to my groups are, I am no more important than any of you that attended this. And I want to do so much dialoguing and talking and getting them involved and doing role plays that my audiences are watching us as a group. They're not watching me as the speaker. Because between you and me, most people are zoomed out now. And they're virtual meetinged out right now, and it's all they're seeing. So what all of us as speakers are left with is, how can we be different? And in my case, not using PowerPoint, not using chat rooms, not using polls, not using breakout rooms, not using virtual background. For me, not using any of it and creating a peaceful environment where the audience is the one that stands out rather than the speaker. For me, that's a way that I can be unique. So the question would be for all of you, what kind of speaker are you? What made you successful? How can you then turn that into a virtual and still be true to who you are? And does your backdrop reflect you? Because your backdrop reflects the state of your mind. And I'm going to be all your therapist now, but your backdrop really to an audience reflects the state of your mind. So try not to have nothing. Try not to have so much clutter that no one can breathe. Try to have something, no matter what it is, that helps your audience understand you better, and then forget about your backdrop and allows them just to focus on you. So I guess that's it. And by the way, any of you that know me, I have never just breathed in my whole life, and I so don't live simply. So we're not saying that this is really who I am. We're just saying it's what I would like my audience to feel, okay, as I'm talking. And it keeps me on track too, because I look and go, okay, well, I better do that one. So, all right, I'm going to have a drink on that.
All right. Connie, thank you. Thank you. We're going to come back to you for whatever Q&A anybody may have, and I know some people do. But one of the things that I'd like you to either write down or underline or make sure you remember, it's not about you, it's how you want people to feel. So some really strong points, Connie, to emphasize that. By the way, I am in my office, not in my studio. Yes, it's cluttered. I don't care. It's my environment, but I'm not spotlight. This
Right.
is not about me. So, I'm in my comfortable space.
Well, I can answer that if you saw the other 3 walls of my office, they're not peaceful either. Okay. I mean, I have a lot of stuff going on in my office, and that's what I want them all to understand. You need one wall, but the rest of your office can be totally who you are. So if I had a way to turn it around here and show you everything else, you'd go, oh, well, that's more like Connie. But all we got to do is figure out how to do one wall for them and 3 walls for us. That's how we look at it.
And folks, I want you to write down that it cost her $680. We can start small. We can stay there. It's what works for you and what works for your client. What questions do you have for Connie? Unmute yourself and raise your hand. Or Bruce, do we have any questions in the chat?
We do not.
Okay.
That means that every single question you had on your mind was answered.
That means they're all really cheap.
All right.
They're like, that's all I need to know. I only have to spend $600.
Oh, gee. But,
it means I'm too cheap, and they can't wait to see some 3 guys that spent good money and have incredible studios and are blowing the world away right now, which you guys are all in for a treat, because these next 3 guys are amazing. So,
and Connie, so are you. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
And we'll have time at the end for questions as well. So if something came up that you just didn't have a chance to ask right now, please make a note of it, because we'll come back to you. Now, I had to chuckle, because our next presenter, Dr. Yoram Solomon, was very clear when he told me, I don't like to spend money. And yet, when you see his studio, and Tim, I just saw your eyebrows go up, because when you see his studio, you'll see he may not like to spend money, but he has spent it. And by the way, Yoram cannot be with us this evening because he's teaching at SMU, because that's one of the things that he does. And so let me tell you a little bit about him. And we're going to look at a video in which he answered some questions that were part of tonight and what we need to know to move forward. He's been a friend of mine for quite a while, and I know you've seen him around the chapter when we were able to all meet together. But he's the author of the book of Trust. By the way, well worth reading. It examines what trust is all about, how it's disintegrating, how we can get it back, and how challenging that might be. But he didn't stop there. He's the author of 12 more books, 9 patents, and he was one of the creators of Wi-Fi and USB 3.0 technologies, for which he was dubbed TI's Great Innovators. He was named by Innovation Excellence as one of the top 100 innovation bloggers, and actually, forgive me, the top 40 innovation bloggers from 2015 to 2019, and by Thinkers 360 as one of the top 20 global thought leaders on culture. He's a columnist at Inc. magazine, Innovation Excellence, and other publications. Prolific. He's published over 300 articles. And you do know that he served in the IDF, that's Israel, 35th Airborne Paratrooper Brigade, and he was an officer and an aerospace education officer, as well as now teaching at universities. Welcome, Yoram. Let's take a look at what he has to say. So, Yoram, I think that people are always very curious about this one because all of a sudden here we are working from home or a home office or whatever it might be, and we've had to change how we were working with our clients. So with that said, why did you decide to put in a studio?
Well, actually, I decided to put 3 studios. I never made that decision. It just happened. And it started happening, I think, 4 years ago with my first, I developed an online course. So this is long before this pandemic started. Developed an online course and I got this little 720p camera and I recorded something and I sent it. And the response back was, this is nowhere near. You need better quality camera. That's when I got the C920 and everything kind of escalated from there. But what I realized is, you know, back in 1906, somebody said that a picture is worth 1,000 words or something like that. It was first said in 1906. And a video is 30 pictures per second, so it's even more. But it really, if you look at where I'm coming from, trust, the ability to see somebody's face, even if it's on a video, brings so much more credibility to what you do that long before this pandemic is when I started building everything up, building the video studios, the live one, and so on. When the pandemic started, it was just, okay, I guess that's all I'm going to do now instead of going on site.
Very interesting. So you kind of had a head start here. Well, one of the things I know we're very curious about, since you have more than one studio, is what have you actually done? And do you mind very much sharing the cost? Because for many of us, it's something we really need to pay attention to.
Okay, so what I charge my customers is, yeah, well, can't talk about that at NSA. But I have 3 studios. We are currently standing in Studio 2A, and 2A is what I call the live studio, because while this is recorded, we're doing it live. And this is why you can see the live sign on the top left, which just went away. But that's Studio 2A. I have upstairs Studio 1, and Studio 1 is for offline. This is where I have really the higher quality camera and a lot more than I can play with, both in terms of lighting, microphones, and everything else. I have a 3rd studio, by the way, which is the studio that I use when I go out. And this is for doing things outside. And it's a camera stabilizer. It has its own boom microphone and it has its own lighting by itself. That's Studio 3B. So we're right now in Studio 2A, I'm sorry. And I'm going to tell you what the cost is. I actually did the math today. I didn't get to do it before today, which was kind of depressing because I spent money on it. But actually, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. The studio that I have upstairs, that's my offline studio. The biggest part of it is the $1,500 camera. When I bought it, it was a $1,700 camera. It's something that's called a prosumer camcorder. So it's kind of between pro and consumer. It's not the smaller one. It's pretty big, but it's not the ones, for example, Nikki, that you have in your TV studio. It's a $1,500 thing. The entire studio, including this camera, is $2,561 plus $20 a month. And the $20 a month is for the video editing software that I use. And I use Adobe Premiere Pro, one of the top ones. I'm not an Apple person, I'm a Windows person, so that's why I use that. That's the cost of that studio. This is my offline studio. This is only once I broadcasted from that studio on a podcast when I was interviewed. But for the most part, broadcasting or live, I do from this studio. This studio has 4 cameras in it, believe it or not. microphone, professional microphone, lighting, and everything else. The software that I use here is OBS, and I use a lot of plugins with OBS. The cost of this studio is $1,900 a month. The camera itself is about $500. I'm looking at my notes here. The docking station, I have three different, and maybe later I'm actually going to show you what they look like. Three different screens, which is really great because I can see you. I can see what I'm doing with OBS. I can see my slide. I can see my next slide. And those are things that are important for me to have a very smooth transition. And the last one, the portable one that I showed you, is really just a $200 studio.
Would you mind coming back to something? Because I think you said your second studio is $1,900 a month?
Oh, no, $1,900 plus $120 a month. And the reason for that, this is the live studio we're broadcasting from. And the reason for that, if I said $1,900 a month, yeah, $1,900 a month, right. $1,900 total equipment plus $120 a month. Here is the $120 a month. That's my internet connection. And if you ask why $120 a month, it's because I have two internet providers, two separate ones that do not use the same infrastructure. And that's important because sometimes you're going to have two providers offering the same infrastructure. One of them is $50 a month, the other is $70 a month. I have a load balancing router. And the reason for all of this is if internet connection gets lost, which happens sometimes, I have a second provider and I'm still on. I never left that scene.
Very, very sharp. Now, why 3 studios?
Well, if you're starting to focus on what you do, and you will see that it requires different things, different types of microphones. I really feel very comfortable with the upstairs because I can move around a lot more than I can here. By the way, I'm standing up, and one part, you're left, one part of the studio that I'm in right now, I like speaking while I stand because I'm more dynamic that way. I feel more comfortable. I feel like I'm in front of an audience, but I'm not wearing shoes. Not wearing shoes. And after a while, you know, it's one thing to do a 30-minute keynote. It's another thing to do a 45 to 60-minute keynote. But I do half-day and full-day workshops. Try standing up for a full-day workshop without shoes. So I can wear shoes, or I have a mat. I have a very special mat, 3/4 memory foam, 3/4 inch thick memory foam that makes standing so much easier. So those studios require different things to really deliver the best experience. Upstairs, I don't need 3 video screens. I just need more room to move around and do things. Down here, I need the 3 screens. I need different kinds of lighting. And obviously the outside studio, just carrying the camera with me, requires completely different things. So because of that, I decided, you know, I'm just going to have 3 different studios.
So in other words, and point me in the right path if I'm not correct here. In other words, after doing, and I imagine you did research with your clients because you're very client-centric, customer-focused. So you did your research and realized that you actually do need a different studio somewhat so that you can deliver different presentations in a different way based on what their needs are.
So you made a very important point. What I do is I see myself through their eyes. I put myself, and it's even hard to say I put myself in their shoes because I'm different than they are. They are different than I am. So I try and see things. And to me, by the way, that's one of the fundamentals to being trusted, your ability to see things from the other person's perspective as if you were them. So I'm looking at myself when I shoot videos. I'm looking at myself when I do Zoom meetings or do online training. And I ask myself, what should I do differently? So it's a matter of, as much as I look at the camera right now, I really try and see things the way the camera sees them. So how do I make sure that my slides, for example, I like to be in the scene with my slides. my content requires slides. Other people's contents may not require slides. And this is where we're starting to be different. So I require the slide to be part of my window. And guess what? If I make it part of my window, you can't see the slide. So you know what I do? My slides, when I present, the content, whether it's text or images, is only on the right side. And because it's on the right side, I never block it. I stand here and I never block it. The other thing is, just like weather people do, meteorologists, haha, I said the word. Just like meteorologists, see, I should have stopped after the first time.
Oh, but you can spell it. I know you can spell
They
it.
have a green screen as well. Sometimes they do have a large screen TV, but for the most part, I do the same thing. I point to things. Right now, I'm pointing to things that are really green screen, but I know I'm pointing to the top of the Reunion Tower. So it's the interaction that I have with the content, but I only get there because I envision what things look like from their perspective, not from mine.
Thank you. And shortly, I'm going to ask you to give a demonstration because we'd like to see how your slides come up and some of the changes you could do. But another question I have is, what would you do differently if you could do it all over again? What have you learned from your experience, your success, as well as those things you tried that didn't work so well?
Well, I am a big supporter of the lean startup methodology by Eric Ries that says just launch something and see how it works and keep correcting it. But at the same time, I do a lot of research before I get something. I do a lot of research before I buy something. I watch a lot of videos. I try things. As a result, I don't have a lot of regrets. I mean, I like the way everything is set up now. I like how I'm working with my clients. They like how, how things look like. And I remember it was a few months ago, I was interviewed on a podcast, and they read the introduction. They said, since the pandemic started, he delivered 30 keynotes virtually. And you know what? Somebody interviewed me last week for a podcast, and he read the same introduction. I'm like, no, since then, in the last 2 months, I'm now over 50 of them. They like what they're seeing. I really don't have a lot of regrets. I didn't buy everything at once. I should say this. I didn't buy everything at once. I started and I added, and I kept on thinking, what should I add? I don't have a piece of equipment that I threw away because it was the wrong piece. So I'm pretty happy. I think there's one thing that I would have changed. Let me take it back. It's a minor thing. I'm big on green screens. I'm using a green screen behind me right now. Typically, people get the cloth green screen. And that's what I have here. That's what I have upstairs. There is paper green screen. And if I had to buy the green screen now, I would get the paper one, because the paper one does not wrinkle. It's like a roll, and it rolls down and it does not wrinkle. That would be the only thing I would change. And I'll probably get one pretty soon.
So rather than the curtain, the cloth green screen, you're advocating maybe trying the paper one as well. Now, I think I also heard you say that you're getting really good feedback from your clients on this.
I do.
Can you say a little bit more? What have they actually said when they look at what you're doing, and how it might be different from what other people are doing?
Well, what they said was, this was really good. And I think probably the best testimonial, or I'm going to give you two of the best testimonials. One of them was not really a testimonial. I'll give you three, okay? One of them was just that I charged them. I even gave them a discount because this was an educational organization and it's a nonprofit. And I thought, I'm not going to charge them full, so I gave them this educational discount. I get the check. The check has 20% more than I asked for. And I actually called them and I said, that this was the price that I quoted. And they said, we thought the minimum we could do is pay you 20% extra. That spoke for itself. Another one, I gave one to MPI did several events and virtual events. One of them was a digital experience. It was a half-day experience, and I was the keynote speaker. And I saw one in their feedback, their own feedback with their members. I saw one of the things that came back that said, the question that they were answering was, what other topics would you like us being MPI, to bring in future events? And the answer was, anything else that Yoram Solomon has to offer. And that to me was great. The third one was from a company I delivered a workshop for, and that was, again, that was not even an email sent to me. It was an email sent to somebody else that I was copied on. I don't know if by mistake or not. That person said, you got to bring this person to work with other groups in our organization, because we went from being one of the worst groups in our organization to one of the best in a span of 6 months, and the only thing we can point out to is that event. So that's the feedback that I get from my customers. And you know, I don't think that it's all the content or my personality. I think it's the whole package. And again, you know, I know that you wanted me to say there's only one right way to do it, and it is my way. No, you didn't want me to say that.
No, I did not want you to say that. Hardly.
But it's different, because I have different content, I have different style and so on. And from the customer's perspective, from the participant's perspective, it's a package. And you know, my package is different than Jim's package. Okay, that didn't sound very well, but
it's a different package. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I have something, and that's something, I play part of it. The slides play another part. The technology plays another part. And that combination is a combination that works for me. May not work for you, may not work for somebody else. And something that works great for you may not work for me. This is me. This is what works for me based on what I'm hearing from my customers.
Excellent. Thank you for that, because there really is not one right way. We have to look at it from what works for us, what can our pocketbook afford, and what is our client need, right? So if there were one thing that you might share with our members in terms of experience, what can our members learn from your experience? Can you give us one?
I want to show you, you asked what this looks like, and so I'm trying to see if I can pick up that right presentation. Maybe it's no, it's not this one. See, this is how you play with Zoom, with OBS online, which is really great, because it gives you a lot of flexibility. So, for example, this is one of my slides, and the way this is going to work is I'm going to be standing on the side. And as I stand on the side, I'm going to start opening things up, and I'm going to point to them. And you see how this whole package starts working together. Now I'll bring the Dallas timeline back, and I'm with you.
All right, so as you're speaking behind you, rather than you being in a little square, your slides are behind you.
That's how I like doing it, yes.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Can you, without your green screen, give us a picture of what your whole studio looks like? And we'll justify stuff hanging around everywhere. That's not a problem.
I was afraid you're going to be asking for that. But here is what we're going to do. How about that? I told you that I have 4 cameras, and we're going to engage yet another one. And so I'm going to take myself out. Hi. And what you can see is, this is my microphone. And one important thing is I have a shock absorbing part to the microphone. I have a pop filter, which I'm not using right now. This is the current slide. This is my presenter view. This is another screen, which I typically would use. Okay, now that just disappeared. This is because, you know, you do need to charge your phone before you do something like this. So this would give me views. It would allow me to control OBS. This is what we see. And down here is where you see the Elgato Stream Deck. So between those things, that's what my Studio 2A, my live studio, looks like.
All right, thank you for that. And I'm curious, how did you do that promo video that you shared with us?
Well, so here's the thing. I'm technical, and I'm going to use this opportunity to actually make another statement. You know that I'm recording those videos every now and then, and I put it in my YouTube channel. It's called Tech Tips for Speakers. I don't get anything from it. My channel is not monetized, so I'm really just doing it for you, the other speakers, to see some of the technology that I'm using and can be used. Different people have different levels of comfort with technology. I am a technologist. I am one of the original team that created Wi-Fi. I drove USB 3 and other things. I wrote softwares for decades. I feel more comfortable than the average person. I try, in those videos at least, I try to make things look simpler, and sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. The bottom line is you are going to use whatever you feel comfortable with. And maybe you're going to stretch yourself a little, but not too much, not too far. To me, one of the things that I fell in love with was video editing. And this is why I have Adobe Premiere Pro and really what you saw there is the absolute basic green screen, me standing there more than once, and everything else is editing, teleprompter, and tricks with the camera.
I am not a technology person, so my head is swimming, but you've shared some really good down-to-earth information. We appreciate you, we appreciate your information, and we wish you could be with us this evening. So thanks for sharing ahead of time. Take care of yourself. Stay safe.
Thank you. Be trusted.
Are we on? We're good?
We're good.
All right. Bruce, you are a tech extraordinaire. And by the way, some of us need to learn how to go from whatever presentation we may have been giving into maybe a video. So notice how seamlessly he did that, because often what happens is we may go to the video, but we forget to turn on the sound. That may have happened to some of us. I'd like you to note something that Yoram said. He's a technologist. Now, compare and contrast yourself. Are you? I know that if I used everything that he's doing, it wouldn't work. It would not work. So again, it's picking and choosing what's going to work for you, what's affordable, what can you manage, because the purpose is still you're there for the customer. So that's why everyone has a slightly different style, or lots different. Our next presenter, again, a very different style. Someone who's been in our association for a long, long time. CSP, CPAE, and Vince Posente says that he grew up with a father who was a radio and TV broadcaster. So learning about framing and lighting and sound and editing was something that he learned when he was knee-high. And heck, he said that his first movie was called The Mysterious Mansion. How many of us have made a movie when we were that high? It starred Vince's brother as the vampire, the neighborhood kids as cast members, and 13-year-old Vince as, guess what? The hero. Well, you didn't doubt that, right? He owned a video production business in high school that captured wedding and events and special event videos that he actually edited. He's edited numerous personal documentaries, from wrestling promotions to treks in the Himalayas. He edits his own speaker demo videos, and he's broadcast over, are you ready for this? 150 COVID camper breakthrough videos since the beginning of the pandemic. My friend, I've known for a while, learned from him a different style, Vince Posente.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you. Hello, everyone. All right. There's all sorts of things I want to cover here today. But I think one of the elephants in the room is this whole lack of interaction. Connie talked about it a bit, right? She talked about how, talking one way to a screen. And goodness, I given a number of presentations virtually And I can't think of a better metaphor than other than it's being romantic, but you're alone. You've got yourself and you've got some Barry White maybe playing in the background and you're going, is this good? This is great. I love it. You love it? Yes, I love it. And I'm all alone in the room. So given that little opener, hopefully I got your attention. It's important to have this energy that is what you're known for. Connie mentioned it. It was very much Yoram in his zone of just laying out the facts and all this kind of stuff. My thing is maybe being a little irreverent, maybe covering some stuff that is more extemporaneous rather than all prepared comments. And so to start off, there was an interesting question my wife got. This was years ago. She was asked what she does as a speaker bureau agent. And she said, my job is to find out who's authentic. And the authenticity that you put on this little screen here, how to speak to a freaking computer is really the essential starting point. And I know we're here to talk about technology, and I will walk you through. I've got, like Yoram, I have a couple of different spots that I like to record from. And each has kind of a different angle. I spent actually very little money. When I added it up, it was $390. Everything you're going to see is basically stuff that I have laying around. I added in the cost of the lights, $190, but I got them for free because these lights were from a former client who wanted me to do a bunch of stuff at my house. And then the technology got better. They bought some LED panels and they said, oh, you just keep those soft boxes. So you can take out $190 there. So that's really out of pocket is a couple $100 that I spent. So there is a way to do this. And if you ever owned a video business in high school, you know how to get creative with how you spend money. That was back in the VHS days. So being able to make sure there was good lighting, good sound, and all that was critical. So given the good lighting and good sound, I would ask you to think about, after this session, take a peek at some of the late night show people, especially Jimmy Fallon when he started. It was absolutely captivating to see Jimmy at home with his two daughters. I don't know if you saw this, but it was just so endearing that he was, he was doing his show and his daughter said, Daddy, I need a red crayon. And he'd go, hold on. And he'd find a red crayon and give it to his daughter and then get back to his show. It was such an authentic insight into that person's world that it ended up being, you end up being more connected to that person. And really, when you think about it, think of what this is. You're trying to sell something. You're trying to sell information. You're trying to sell a perspective, maybe a sequence or something they can do differently. So who do you buy from? Well, somebody that you trust, somebody who's being authentic, not doing authentic, of course. And think of the people in your life you're more connected to, right? Are they doing the relationship or are they just being themselves? Basically, are they vulnerable? So the vulnerability of being able to present in this computer screen with this monitor, and we're sharing time together, is to have this authenticity just ooze out of as you present and as you present yourself and as you engage with everybody. The bottom line with the technology that you provide, are you optimizing the experience that they are going to have? Think about that for a second. Can you optimize that? If it was great when Connie switched off her lights, because she turned into the witness protection program. Like you couldn't see her face, and all of a sudden you're going, "Are you having an experience there?" No, you're like, "Wonder what's going on? Why can't you be professional? Whatever." And then she switched the lights back on, and the experience changed just like that. So be be adamant about how you facilitate an experience, and you can do that without a great deal of money. I'm kind of technology envious of Yoram's setup, and he and I spent a bit of time about how to work OBS, and he figured it out, and I went, screw that, I can't even figure it out. So, you know, if you can figure out OBS, great. I just couldn't. So what I do here, let's talk a bit about the mechanics of framing. Now, as you can see here, this is actually a little bit courtesy of Connie, because we're buddies, as you know, and she said, hey, why don't we exchange ideas? And then when we got on the call, it was Connie giving me all these ideas. And I didn't have anything for her. I said, man, you could do a poll. And so Connie's idea was to say, hey, clean up your background. I had books that I'd written. There's some awards that are tucked away. I'm not a big fan of putting up awards behind me. I'm more interested in that. I had another kind of skier image that was all white and it was washed out. And then I had these old skis. Where are they? Right there. These skis that I did not use in the Olympics. That would have been the 1920 Olympics. I was actually in the 92 Olympics. But anyway, the skis were laying around, and I just went to the garage, sanded them up, just to put some linseed oil on them, and put them right there with the ski poles. They'd just been collecting dust in a shed, and so to have, you know, I wrote a book called The Ant and the Elephant. So there's a little, image of the elephant there, and then for what it's worth, I'm covering it up. But you know, some of my books that I've written are here. And but I cover them up because who cares? You want them to have an experience. You want them to have an experience of you. So there's a bit of the skiing, obviously the skiing painting back there, the ant and the elephant, and just real basic and clean. That's so essential. Susan, you've been on screen, and I really enjoy yours, Susan Gatton. I've seen yours. It's real clean, and it's got those. Hey, there's that smile. And so to have, and what's your name here? I can't, you've got round glasses and you have the same color hair as I do. Anyway, your lighting is awesome. Wave if I'm talking to you. You're wearing a purple top. There you are. Your name just disappeared, which I don't know why you did that. But anyway, Jerry. And so a little Seinfeld homage. Anyway, so to Jerry, that's great lighting that you've got going on there. There's Connie on the witness protection program again.
The light cost $20 from Home Depot.
$20. Well, there you go. There's is the light covered, or is it just pointed at you as a spot? Oh, I see. Interesting. So that light has a diffusing effect. If you had a bulb, then you may want to put a piece of paper over it to diffuse it. But having diffused light is pretty critical to be able to do that, and full spectrum. So as we go through this, being a little off center, I don't know if it's because that's what I'm like is off center, or if it's more pleasing to the eye to just be a little bit different. And remember when you did your photograph at high school, and the photographer had you sit on an angle, turn, face, and then turn your head sideways. Remember that? So this is kind of the same thing with this impression that you're going to give online. It's a little bit off center, but it gives a sense of staging, if you will, but it's authentic at the same time. I'm not squared up. I'm not up close like this, and I'm not so far back that you have to strain to see where I'm coming from. It seems to be a pretty good angle, and you can move your camera in and out. As I mentioned, I'll walk you through here and show you the technology I'm using right now. But right now, I'm using the camera and the microphone on my monitor. When I got my MacBook Pro, I got a monitor at the same time. And there is a cost of a laptop, but they have built-in cameras in them. So, and this monitor had a built-in camera as well. It's an LG is what I'm using right now. So so I wrote a couple things down. So studying other people, I use Jimmy Fallon, but it's fascinating. If you watch the news, watch the reporters many of them are reporting from their kitchen. I don't know why, but they've got this kitchen thing going on. But the weather guy, guess where he presents from? He goes outside in the patio. Or if it's raining, he goes back inside. But you've always got a sense of weather in the background. So they're spending a lot of time with the essence of who they are or what they're doing. I honestly don't know why they're doing it in the kitchen. If you've got anything in the chat, you could type in why the kitchen. But for us to be able to be an acoustically good situation is great. Paying attention to sound is critical. I've on the cheap, I never did the Yeti thing. I did the camera, the microphone that's a little Rode wired one. And this hooks up normally to my laptop. And then I run the sound through there. And you can find where the optimum level that this microphone, it picks up a real hot feed. So I put it pretty low down, actually out of frame down here. And then it ends up picking sound pretty well. And it's just a simple Rode cord. I forget what I spent on this. That was, and I bought this well before the pandemic. Oh yeah, with the extenders and all that, it's about $100. But you know, I remember spending about $60 on that microphone. Let's talk about something here. It's good to have depth of field when you're presenting. And I have a distance of about, from the camera here to the back wall is about 8 foot. Connie's, as you can see, her back wall, I've been in that room and it is probably, what do you think, about 15 feet, Connie? Yeah. Yeah, so to have depth of field is really important. You can actually cheat a little bit and go on an angle. And if you've got some sort of angle, Karen Cortell-Reisman did her presentation a couple of days ago, and she has situated her camera with a corner in the back, and it looks world-class to have some sort of angles to that. Just think of if you were to look at a house. And a house with a bunch of angles and peaks and all that is pleasing to the eye. A square rectangle is not. And so to have a square rectangle is going to minimize the effect. And the more you can kind of optimize the essence of what you're trying to get across, the feeling. And Connie said it better than I just did. So definitely have depth. And you'll see me walking you through here. Get rid of the echo effect. Also, if this was a paid client, I would not be going on Wi-Fi because you're not paying me. You're on Wi-Fi. But I've got this Ethernet cord that's, gosh, it's about 70 feet long, and I run it from where my Ethernet is situated in another room, and I can run it all the way over to my computer here and have a hard line to that. Yoram went the extra mile and he bought 2 internet providers. He's just next level, that dude. he takes it to a whole new level. So, and we could talk about him because he's not here. So that's okay, isn't it? All right, so to have that the internet feed with the Wi-Fi and all that is great. Now, in order to switch over to technology that works for us here, I'm going to bring you into my phone here, and I'm going to walk you through. And we found that if you got 2 going at the same time, in fact, I'm going to do it live for you so you can see what happens when you have 2 feeds. I think somebody's going to have to admit me to let me in here. Using internet audio, turn it that way. Are you getting the feedback? No. All right, so now I have my camera here. I shoot 90% of everything I do for clients, for the 150 of the sessions I've done with the breakthrough videos. I do it on an iPhone. I mean, I do have an adapter where I can put the microphone, the Rode microphone in here when I know I need dedicated sound. But also, this little gadget here is a tripod, and the legs bend. And so you can actually attach it to certain things, and you'll see as we walk through here. So I'm going to switch off. Well, I'm just going to walk in the other room. Now, let's make sure that the sound is on here. Oh, that's why that's not working. I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave this meeting because I know once I switch this microphone on, you'll hear a feedback. Do you? Yeah, there it is. You hear that echo? That's because I've got two microphones and speakers on at the same time. So it's very distracting. I'm leaving this and I'm going to my camera right now. Now, so here we are. This is my office, and you can see where I got to leave that meeting.
It's good, Vince.
There.
Here in
All
echo.
right.
We're good.
Are we good?
We're good. No echo.
No echo. And the microphone. All right. So here we are in my office, and what I've used here are two lights. If you use just one light, you're going to get a bit of the interrogation effect. If you use two lights on an angle, then there shouldn't be a reflection. You see how there's a reflection on the glass there? So if you do it on an angle, you won't get that reflection. I have three monitors, and the only reason I have three monitors is I had this big one laying around, and I thought I'm going to use that for when I do my everyday duties and I'm writing and I put stuff off to the side. So I never use the third monitor when I'm doing promotions or video broadcast. And so there's the camera right here. And I do a little, if you watch the movie Snowden, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I put the cover on the camera here. And then I have a little cover on the camera here as well. And it says smile, because smile when you talk is so important. All right, so let's walk over to the other studio, because I'm going to walk you over to what I have here is a green screen. Now, the green screen, I went to Bed Bath & Beyond, and I got a cloth green screen. And now Yoram said he likes the paper ones because they don't wrinkle. Well, if you look here, if you get push pins, you can just pull it so tight that you get no wrinkles on your green screen here. So I pull it across the wall. You can kind of get a sense for the size of it. It's a queen size sheet that's on a wall. Now, there are three lights that you can see here. 1, 2, 3. The two lights that are around my desk, I bring them in here and they come backlight as well. So there's a 5-point lighting system here to make sure that people have a sense of that everything's well lit, because with the green screen, it has to be an even example of how it works. So it has to be even or it's not going to work on the green screen. So I'm pushing you onto the little tripod here. And there you go. So the idea behind this is that with the green screen, you could do, holy crap. All right. All right. This was done on purpose. Passcode. Are you serious? Okay. So now with the green screen, obviously you can go to a virtual background. You can, where is it? There it is. So, well, normally you can do a virtual background. I'm not doing it right now, but that's the effect of a green screen, is being able to have a better background, because it is less professional for you to use the Zoom virtual background if you don't have a very even background behind you. And so you're going to find that you're going to have a difficult time having a good impression when you've got the background and it's kind of modeled around the person's head and all that. All right. So another thing that I use here is here's a tripod. And this tripod, this is actually a swivel that I bought thinking it was a good idea. It's a complete waste of money as far as I'm concerned, but it does hold on to my 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 iPhone when I use the iPhone for with the tripod. And what I do here, let's do this, is I use this as a kind of a studio as well when I want to present. And I'll use the microphone as well, and I'll have the monitor here in the background. And so, decline that. My mom was just calling. So to have the monitor in the background, and then I'll have my laptop right here, and I'll advance the slides on the monitor here. So you remember when you saw Yoram's, he was building it into OBS and that kind of thing. Well, this is a little shortcut. It's a TV that I have laying around. I use it when I'm exercising in here. This is where I exercise, and but you can't see it. All you see is kind of this studio. It doesn't look that great with that thing there, but you know, when you frame it properly and then you present, you can have kind of a professional impression as you present with the monitor in the back. Okay, so that's the other studio experience that I wanted to show you. All right, so let's go back into the office. And as I'm doing this, I'd like to open it up for questions, because you may have some questions. I don't know how long I've been speaking for either. It's probably good to have a timer.
Yeah,
anyway.
There's a little bit more time, Vince. And a question is, I added up all your costs, and surely my math is wrong. We have a sheet of your equipment and costs. It seems to be about $400.
Yeah, $390. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I got the lights for free because here's a rule of thumb. There's always a geek out there like Yoram who, and he's not here, so we could talk about him. Game on. Is Yoram has stuff. I guarantee you, he has stuff he's not using. And just go to Yoram and say, hey, what do you want for your whatever, and he'll say, oh, they'll sell it to you for $50. Then you've got something that works perfectly well, like these softbox lights. I mean, these things are awesome, but they didn't need them anymore because they have the LED panels. So there you go.
Rex House had a question. So Rex, speak up. Rex, you had a question? All right, I'll read it for you. Is the green screen on two walls at a right angle?
No. The green screen is straight. It's push pinned into a wall. That's it. It's a sheet. It's a green sheet from Bed Bath & Beyond. I've got some green pillowcases in case anybody needs them, because it came as a package. And I have no need for green screen pillowcases.
Okay. And Malone said she's heard you need to put light on the green screen. Where should you place the light for that?
Right. So it's essential to have, think of I have 5 lights. You don't need that many, but I got them, so I'm using them. I use one over top and from behind. So you kind of want to have a bit of an effect of being this kind of a halo effect or whatever. And then 2 lights that shine just on the green screen, meaning they're on an angle, they wash onto the green screen from both sides. What you want is an even light. So as you move the lights around, you're going to see hot spots, and you go, wait a minute, that needs to change a little bit. When you get rid of the hot spots, then you are in a situation where you can take the other 2 lights and have them basically pointed at you on a 45-degree angles or so. So everything has to be on angles, and finding where the lights go. Another neat effect is you can take a light from down below and shine it up, and it can kind of outline your head and make you pop, which gives that depth of effect.
Okay, we thought you were just a little angel with all that halo around you up there.
Yeah, I'm an angel.
Oh, no, we know you. Susan Gatton wanted to know what program you're using for editing.
I use the free one. It's called iMovie, and iMovie comes with a Mac. He's using Premiere Pro, paying $20 a month, and it is an awesome program, and it's very user-friendly. So if you want to graduate to a better learning editing platform, use that. I will say this, Susan, when I do editing, most of my editing I do on my iPhone. An iPhone comes with an iMovie. Mm-hmm. So honest to Pete, I mean, and I'll throw in, I encourage everybody to go on, I post them on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram. Just follow me or whatever, and you'll see these videos, and there's a little bit of production on every one of them. And it's just been awesome. Now, if you get even better, you've heard of stock footage. Here's a little shortcut. Now, you can go through Shutterstock or Getty Images or whatever. I've actually used something called Lumen 5, Lumen 5.com, the number 5. And Lumen has access to all these free Getty Images and Shutterstock. They're not free because I'm paying them $70 a month. But every once in a while, when I do video production, I'll need images. And so I grab those images and I have unlimited use of them. So if I do something on the brain, then I've got a brain spinning around. If I'm doing something on people having an argument, then I can grab those images, and you can get video and still images. Now, I didn't include that in the $390 because that's if you're into editing and all that. And I am. I've been editing since, oh, by the way, my movie, The Mysterious Mansion, was my only movie. It was done when I was 13 years old. So there you go.
You're a great hero, great hero. One other question I believe that Nancy Little had is, what is the purpose? What does the red ceiling do?
Oh, the red ceiling was done for my son, who was a little rock star back in the day. And so we wanted to have a rock and roll theme. So I just never repainted the scene.
I'd be curious as to what your clients might ask you about that red ceiling. Has anyone?
Well, they never see the red ceiling.
Okay.
It's they never see it.
All right. And that may be all for the good, right?
Right.
What other questions might we have, folks? We're good? Vince, thank you.
Eduardo
very much.
had a question. Would you recommend what?
Mm-hmm.
What did he say?
Would you recommend against having the bookcase and it disappeared? Can you see it?
Would you recommend against having the bookcase full of books in my office behind me? Looking at your offices, I'm realizing that my bookcase is too distracting. Why is it that newscasts use bookcases with books?
Yeah, Eduardo, I would say just watch the news. I mean, watch people that are interviewed. There's tons of examples. I saw a movie star do such a horrible job with the production of it because I don't think he cared. But you'll see a bookcase in the back is almost a cliche. And you do not want to be a cliche if you want to be in the category of expert or thought leader or just expert. And so if it's authentic with who you are and you've written and read all these books and you've poured over them and you're a professor and all that, and you're maybe Gary Hoover's a good example. He's almost like a mad scientist, and he has 100,000 books, right? This guy has 100,000 books. And it makes sense that there's books all over the place and his hair is off to the side. And he's the guy out of Back to the Future, the old, the doc, whatever that guy's name was. So I guess if it's Eduardo, if it's authentic for you, yes, but I caution you to slip into the category of cliche because you are Emmett Brown. Thank you. I caution you to find as many ways to be unique, be a little off center. I mean, I framed it up right now. I put it on my little flexi tripod right here. I put it on my laptop, and you're off in an angle a little bit because it's the impression you want to be able to give people. So.
Well, can I say something?
Yeah.
Oh, and Eduardo, I would agree with Vince and answer, I'm sure it is distracting. What amazes me is that as speakers, we have been on amazing stages, and we would be very outspoken if someone had hired us and put a stage behind us that looked like the way some speakers allow their own backdrop to look for them, right? I mean, if we went on a stage that was cluttery and messy and the curtains weren't right and we didn't have good lighting, we would have nicely and respectfully said to the client, hey, can we change some of this? Because we know that the audience is looking at us and what we're showing them takes their eye away. and it is a reflection of us. And again, I have a bookcase and I have tons of books. I just chose not to put it, and as you can see with Vince has tons of books, and we all have a normal home. We've just chosen one wall to not reflect what maybe is reflected in the rest of our home. So, you know, if there's a way for you to not do the bookcase or keep the bookcase, but put something that's not so cluttery or distracting as a bunch of books, that would probably be better for your audience.
Good point. Vince, thank
Yep.
you very, very much.
Thank
And
you.
remember, everybody, we're going to stay around at the very end after our next speaker finishes up. If you have any questions, write them down so you don't forget it. And by the way, if you'd like, we're not taking a real break, but if you need a stretch break, remember when you stand up to turn off your video, unless you have this, there we go. Thank you, Vince. Unless you have this incredible muscle-built body. In that case, leave it on. All right. So I have the pleasure of introducing our next presenter, who is also a very close friend, as many of you know. I've known this gentleman for over 32 years. Jim Pancero, CSP, CPAE, and he's been a professional speaker, consultant, coach, and trainer for 39 years. Good makeup, Jim. You don't look that old. His programs focus on improving a company's selling effectiveness and sales leadership skills. And most of his work is done in the business-to-business distribution, as he says, dirty and greasy kind of companies, not the kind that some of us work with, but he does that so well. He's also currently serving as the chair of our NSA's Foundation Board of Trustees. Welcome, Jim Pancero.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to get to be here. I think it's what is so positive is how, even though you've seen technically how each of us are implementing our philosophies, how consistent the philosophies are. A customer-centric experience that reflects who you are and allows you to get your message across in a unique way. To me, that's the critical foundation of all of this, no matter what you choose, even if it's not any of the technology that you're going to see or have seen that has occurred. I think it's also interesting how the technology of how we've applied it directly ties into our business model. Connie is a great example. She gives keynotes. I tend to do more training. So my problem is I have repetitive experiences with a customer. So for me, having one locked in background of any kind of office or bookshelves or any of that other stuff didn't make sense to me because of the repetitiveness of what I'm doing with my clients. There are three reasons I put a studio in, and it's because of the three tools that I want to have as part of my speaking business. The first is I'm posting 3 videos a week on all the social platforms and of working on that. So that I learned when I first started those that it was, my customers have told me that most of them gang watch my videos. They'll say, I'll watch 4 or 5 at a time. And that, you know, I'll wait a couple of weeks and watch 4 or 5. So the idea that when there was only 1 or 2 backgrounds, that repetitiveness turned off customers. In fact, I got a lot of feedback. Before COVID, I used to sneak around to hotels and just look for unlocked meeting rooms and record with a selfie stick like Yorm showed you and record stuff and just move around the hotel and recording in hallways and stuff until I got caught and then go leave and go to another hotel. And so each of my videos had a different background. It's interesting. My customers would say, Jim, I can tell you're successful. I go, wow, how can you tell? And they said, well, your programs, you're always in a meeting room someplace. It's either right before a presentation or right after. So the image I was trying to project was at least working. Then COVID hit. And I saw it immediately that I was trying to record here in our house in front of bookcases and just finding different places to film some of my video clips. And I ran out of places to do it, that it was just too repetitive very quickly. So that's when we decided we need to do something about it. So the first reason is to give me variety in the little demo, in these little promo, or these little posted videos that I do. The second thing I needed is that I want to do more products, and I want to start recording products again, especially in this new COVID influenced environment with those kind of themes. So the idea of having my own studio that I could record and crank this stuff through was very appealing. And the third reason was for doing my seminars, doing the webinars of what we're doing. What I want to show you here as an example. In fact, you have a handout that we sent with the connection for today. And it has a lot of the details, and I showed pictures of the kind of technology of what I'm using. But I think the most critical thing is this bottom line sentence. I should get my shoulder out of the way here, but let's go this way. To increase our competitive advantage in bookings by looking more professional, more interesting, and providing better information-intensive content that's going to change the attendees' behaviors. That's the goal of why I'm doing this. And the second reason is, if I want to be paid, I have the philosophy, I've got to do it better than what my customers do. So that if I go to a meeting, they say everybody's going to be casually dressed, I'll wear a sport coat. If they said they're all going to be in sport coats, I'll wear a suit. It's the idea of always trying to be one level higher because I'm the outside professional expert coming in to help them. Here's the problem we have. You see two images there on the screen. In fact, these two images, let me put it here just to get it complete. These are the two images that if all you're doing is using Zoom and running PowerPoint on Zoom by sharing your screen, these are the only two images you have to protect or project to a customer. And look how old it gets if all we have is this little box up in the corner with us talking for, I was on a seminar recently, for an hour, all it was this little 1-inch block over the slides. Now, it's not that that's negative. The problem is that's what our customers are doing. You're hearing everybody talk about Zoom fatigue. And the Zoom fatigue is if they're listening to their own people presenting, usually very boring, but they're doing slides with the little 1-inch square like we have here. What happens when they say, hey, we're going to pay an expert to come in and help us? And then we do the exact same thing. So the whole goal for me of coming through to this was just to have a visual variety on top of hopefully content that's going to have a major impact on them. Because even though we have all this, it's almost like packaging of presents. If you open up the present and there's really nothing in there, there's no content, there's no impact, there's no message, you're not going to sell a lot of packages. But this stuff is just wrapping. It still is based and founded on, you got something to say and people need to hear it and you're going to help them with it. So for me, as I changed my scenes, I basically, in fact, I use this one page as a handout to share with customers of saying, I have 4 scenes I can offer you that I will intermix throughout our webinar. I have just me as a talking head. I have the slides over my shoulder. I can put myself in front of the slide and talk over it if something's going on as what's happening, or I could just, especially if it's a high content, just show you the slide. And this gives me kind of like more clubs in your golf bag, that it gives me more flexibility when I go out and I try to present and talk to people. To do this, let me show you what the studio looked like. In fact, putting in a major studio, I promise you, is a major pain in the ass. The more money you spend on your studio, the more, I promise you, it'll never be finished. And you always got something else you need to tweak, something else you need to change, or something else you need to adjust. These are very fragile systems. In fact, I probably have put maybe 150 or more hours to get this thing working. And frankly, it's just been working in the last couple of weeks, dialed in like I think it needs to be. In fact, if you watch that video that Nikki did interviewing Yoram, you can see that that was not a strong image of projecting of her because we didn't dial the equipment in yet as tightly as we needed it to be. I also need to thank Vince, as well as Yoram. Vince was a great help when I was getting started, giving me some direction. And Yoram, he is just a machine with the technology. Stuff I was having hours and couldn't figure out, he was giving me 5-minute answers on that worked. So if anything, a big shout out to Yoram. And if you haven't seen it, he keeps posting all these technical videos on YouTube for speakers about cameras to use and all sorts of other stuff. So I really encourage to check this out. Because if you want to improve your studio, one of the best things you could do is watch a bunch of YouTube videos. I think I probably watched 50 in putting the studio in. In fact, it's interesting, most of the videos I watched are put on by people that run the technology for their churches. A lot of Baptist churches where they'll talk about, show their equipment and how I use OBS, how they use all that stuff, just to try to understand how it works and what needs to happen. Here is, in fact, let me show you here, just to get back to this here. This is, here is my studio, as you can see. And the studio, it's a green screen, and it's a 10-foot green screen because I have had a 10-foot green screen for several years. I used to set it up in my living room and have this big green screen and lights, but it took several hours to set it up and several hours to tear it down. Then I went and put a little small studio where I was just sitting with a little backlighting on me and some just lights in a spare support room. But that started looking really old. Then, like Vince, I used to record all my stuff on my iPhone and would go out and record in all the hotels and stuff, trying to be real and out in the world. The problem is now the world is changing. So I think I can get away now with having it more contained in doing this. Notice that you're hearing the same things. Vince has it, I have it. It's a 5-light system. One of the lights I have is called a key light, and it's right over the top of my head. In fact, here, let me unplug it for you. Watch my hair. And look how flat my hair looks with this light off and my shoulders. But then when I put it back on, let me get it plugged in here again. Look how it adds some light and it's called highlight. I have one of those lights. I have 2 lights on the green screen. I have 2 lights in front of me, and they're at 45-degree angles. And my lights are really high. They're at about 6 feet, so that my glasses, hopefully, as I'm looking straight ahead, don't reflect. The reason you have this stuff at 45-degree angles is because of light reflection off your lenses. The light comes in this way and the reflection goes that way. It doesn't go to the camera. That's the problem with those ring lights people put right behind or right around their phone or their camera. Because it's a direct light, you get the direct reflection on the glasses. So this is, I have the light overhead. I have, let me put it back on here so you can see the, I have the 2 lights on the green screen. I have 2 lights in front of me. I had a teleprompter, which I own, that I had that on my camera, but I found that it took it down a couple of light stops, and I was having problems with the detail. I was losing it. So I had to get rid of, I had to take it off. So I have now, you'll see a flip chart stand just leaning against the wall, and in large type, I'll just tape a sheet or a couple sheets on the flip chart, and I can just read that. And as I read that copy, it still looks like I'm looking at the camera as part of the setup. By the way, I used to have big light boxes like Vince said. In fact, if anybody wants some light boxes, talk to me. I'll make a great deal for you. There's a problem with them. Even though they're really nice and spread a lot of light, they're not adjustable. One of the things I found that wasted a lot of time for me when I put the studio in is I had all the lights basically as bright as I can get it, thinking that's what you needed for a recording studio. And I was having a problem with my image. I pulled the 2 big light boxes I'd had with the bulbs in it that are not adjustable and pulled them out of the room and just put in light panels. Frankly, I did it just a couple days ago, and it dramatically improved because I could adjust them and I could tone them down. Probably one of the biggest mistakes I made in putting in my studio is I tried to use old existing technology to make this stuff work. Nikki, because of her television studio and everything, has all these really expensive cameras. They're older cameras. The problem is you can't use a 1080i camera. It has to be a 1080p. It has to do with the green screen separation when you go to a higher quality camera. Now, if you're not doing any technology, post-production, green screen or anything with what you're doing, you could get by with a 1080i camera. But if you start doing any post-production, it doesn't handle it well. Well, I wasted a lot of time before I finally had to go out and buy a new camera. I wasted a lot of time with these light boxes trying to use what I had. So I've got about 6 or 8 light boxes around here, but I couldn't adjust them. So it took me a while to get over that. I have a Yeti mic, and I used to have it on the table here on the side, but I found if I put it on a boom microphone overhead, it actually helped improve the sound because it gave a more direct fit. And I'll show you the equipment I use. Here's the setup I have as I'm looking. I like to use 3 screens. The screen of my laptop runs the OBS software and controls what's going on. And I change the scenes by hitting the keypad. You can program that in. The second screen, though, I like, which is just directly right, almost right beneath the camera, is I can put everybody's image off of the Zoom meeting, and I can see everybody in the patterns of what they have. In fact, let me switch this over because I didn't switch it after Vince's presentation. So I like to have this on a gallery view, especially so I can call on people, or if somebody's raising their hand and waving, I can see it. And then the third screen runs my PowerPoint. I have not been able to get OBS software to work on a laptop running OBS and trying to do the PowerPoint at the same time. I found it was a lot easier to put it on another screen. So I have 3 screens. In fact, if I'm
Jim, your sound went out.
I have no idea how that happened. It somehow must have hit a key. But what I found happens is if I am not using PowerPoint, I can even get the Zoom meeting on 2 screens. I got it. I did it for a meeting, a couple meetings. I'm not sure how I did it, but I know it's possible to do that. Now, costs. What does this cost me to?
Sound went out again.
It's interesting, somehow crossing over, it's coming off. Investment, I have it in your handout. My studio cost is about $2,000. Frankly, there's also another $1,000 of wasted stuff that I got that I wound up not using or returning or I'm stuck with. So if anyone wants excess equipment, talk to me, I'll make you a deal. But this is what's involved. You have in the hand, somehow when I cross over, it's cutting it out. That's what's going on. I'm gonna go through these real quick. You have my camera. It's about a $500 camera. The problem is when you buy a camera, it has to be a USB connector. On these cameras, it comes out, you come out of it with an HDMI cord to go into your laptop. I learned the hard way that the HDMI plug on your laptop is an outbound plug. It's not an inbound plug. So you can plug it into a projector or a TV screen to project your image out of your laptop, but it's not a port to receive a camera coming in. So you have to have one of these adapters that converts an HDMI plug out of the camera into the USB plug. These are the kind of challenges. Green screens are really cheap. So, I mean, a sheet of paper, is Worm talked about, is great. Stretching a sheet across. The problem with a green screen, if there's any wrinkles in it, it'll look as a dark streak in the image background you would have. So these things need to be stretched taut with no breaks in it. And with what's going on with it as part of, so it has to be smooth. In fact, there's a really great software, simple application you can buy for your Apple iPhone, and it's called Green Screener. And what it does is you hold it up, and as you photograph or as you project the video of your green screen, and it'll show you where the hot spots and where the dark spots are to help it adjust. Lights. I have found these lights are spectacular. They cost about $100 a piece, and they're adjustable. You can make them hot, warm, or cool colors. You can make them brighter or darker. And then you see the example of the key light. Also a bunch of other stuff. I really like this Yeti Boom microphone because it gets the mic so much closer that I feel it has a better sound. And you can see just the supplies I had with that. And then I use OBS software. If there's any way you could use anything else besides OBS software, I would suggest it. It's a really tough learning curve. Now, I think now that I know it, I'm going to stick with it because I know how to use it. But it went through a lot of blood and pain to get there. I have something, I know it was so little time. As we were preparing all this and having discussions, it's interesting how this has been a real hot button for my customers. Usually after any webinar I do for them, somebody, usually the management of that hired me or wanted me to do this, says, tell me how you did that. What did you do for that? So the handout I developed for this, I've actually been passing out to customers for the last couple of weeks when we've had one-on-one conversations because this is such a hot button to them. So that tells me this has been a right track, at least for me. So I made something up for you. And it basically is meant for you to help you evaluate. It's just my suggestions of what can you do starting now with no money to improve your image and impact of what you're doing on Zoom. It is in 6 levels. The first level is free. You've heard a lot of the comments that are on here that were already said today of just better light, better framing, better background, stuff you can, and delivering a strong message. Those are all free things that will dramatically improve. It's interesting that I see other speakers on how their images are just so weak. I think it reflects the quality of their message received by customers when they have such a poor presentation of the great content that they have. Second level, there's only one thing you do: improve your microphone. Now, I like the Yeti mics. They tend to have a little bit deeper sound to them, whether you're male or female. It's a good, strong sound. You got to be careful, though. They're directional. If you're using a Yeti mic, keep the light faced towards you, because if you turn it around the other way, like I've known some people have, it actually muffles your sound because it's meant to soften the distractions. But these are really strong mics and have really strong sound. Third thing is improve your video camera. If anything, you're seeing the Brio, the Logitech, they're the 920. The problem is they're really hard to find now. Everybody's out of stock. But those cameras, they're a good camera, or to go with a higher quality camera even above that. Fourth thing to do is improve the lighting on you. And it's just like for $180, you can have 2 of these lights and just really have some strong and be able to adjust them. Next thing to do is add a green screen. Even if you only use it with the zoom setting, but for the green screen setting, that does a pretty good separation. Using the virtual background without a green screen, I think looks amateurish. And I think the customers actually laugh about those when they see them. So, and then the sixth is to utilize some kind of software, because the idea of the software is just to give variety. So going through this, I can just talk and have this over to the side like a newscaster. I can go directly in if I want to make a point, or if I have an opening or closing. I can then just go to straight slides, or I can put myself in front of the slides. In fact, with one of my customers, they're a bus company. I put myself on a bus just to be able to show them and just to be present, just for some fun. Yoram always has himself in some kind of spacecraft or a jet engine. Those are the range of what's going on. And then this final thing is doing software for Mac, Ecamm and Prezi. I'm hearing a lot of positive stuff about. Offer those as ideas. That was kind of a drive-by shooting. I think the thing that's most important to me is that I have a tool for my business that gives me the flexibility of hitting the markets or the opportunities I want to take advantage of. And for me, that's 3. Doing new products, these 3 brief videos I do each week that I'm posting. And then finally, what I'm doing with webinars to just not look like the traditional Zoom stuff they're so tired of. I'll open it up for questions or turn it back over to you, Nikki. In fact, I think I still have another 20 seconds from what you told me.
All right. Thank you very, very much. And I know all of you, all 4 of you have our heads swimming, but I can remember the days when we used, and Susan, I know you remember this as well, overhead projectors with transparencies and a flip chart. Man, life was so much easier. But we have 2 people who were coming from Yoram and Jim, coming from a perspective that, remember, they're both technology experts. That was their background.
And I consider myself a professional photographer.
Exactly.
So I knew
so
what
a
I
little
wanted.
bit, wait, I'm speaking. Thank you very much. Don't interrupt the moderator, but I appreciate that.
It's
And
not politics.
what happens is, if you have that kind of knowledge, you're going to want all of the toys, and you're going to want to play with them and see what works and what doesn't. Yet we can be simple and elegant, spend a lot less money, and get for us what we also need if we don't have that affinity for technology. So hopefully from everyone this evening, yes, Connie, and to some degree, Vince, I can relate to that, Connie, because technology, please, turning on a light switch, that's good enough for me.
No, I can't do any of it. So this is what you get if you don't want to spend all the money and you don't have all the technology.
And it's interesting because, of course, in the studio, and I have these huge cameras sitting in my closet. I have all that. I know how to operate them. I just don't want to.
Right.
And so, from everyone here, hopefully this evening, what you've gotten is a buffet from which you could take whatever works for you and is going to help you with your clients. Now, we still have a little bit of time. If there are any still burning questions, Bruce, if we could unmute and the person could raise their hand, or maybe you go to the chat room and Jerry,
Jerry's raising her hand.
go for it.
Okay, I put it in the chat earlier. I have a Logitech 920 camera, and I also bought a Yeti mic, so you can see. I tried to look right. Okay, I can't make this darn thing work. The audio is in the camera, but when I plug this in, I get nothing. So what am I doing wrong?
You haven't connected it to your computer, most likely. You have to go in and make sure that it's recognized as an audio source.
Okay, yeah, it popped up that it was, but I guess I didn't choose it, maybe.
The second thing is to look at what you have as to what audio microphone you have selected in the Zoom at the microphone piece. If you lift it up, it gives you a choice of all the audio choices on your computer.
Okay, thank you.
And Jerry, if you're stuck, would you email Jim or me?
Okay,
And happy to walk you through that.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome. What other
Maybe-
questions for anybody?
Maybe I just want to interrupt quickly. None of us mentioned the obvious, but if you're speaking, speak to the camera up here. Don't look at yourself and speak to yourself.
Oh, I was looking at Jim in the little window.
I know.
We do, right?
You reminded me of it, Jerry. Thank you.
Also, there's something else I would suggest. I noticed on a couple people I've seen in your cameras. These cameras are set to be able to capture anything that's presented to it. So it has a lot of auto functions on it. And one of the problems when you have a studio that's fairly well lit, I'm talking about a studio like Connie's up to a more technology one. If the camera still has like an auto iris, so if you lean forward like this, the whole image will go dark, or you'll see if you raise your hands up, the light will change. So one of the things you're gonna do is look at is how you can turn off the auto iris on your camera so you don't have it constantly darkening and lightening as you move your hands around.
It's quite a feat. And by the way,
your hands, not your feet.
no, FEAT. And by the way, from Yoram to Vince to Connie to Jim, they will be happy. At least I'm offering this. I haven't asked them. Email them if you have a very specific question, because we want to make sure that those are answered. And the
My
reminder,
email address is connie@podesta.com.
Connie, are you still here? Anyway, the reminder that we have recorded this for the very first time. We've recorded Fireside Chat for a very specific reason. This is complicated. It's challenging. You received, as I say, a buffet, a potpourri, and you can go back because you are going to have the recording and you can go back to it as you please and go through it. We're going to give this as a gift to everyone in the chapter because it is the future. It's not only now, but it is the future. It's not going away. So take from it what you will. And I'd like to say thank you to everyone who participated in making this work, and our technology expert extraordinaire, Bruce. A big round of applause for Bruce. Because behind the scenes, you have people who help you, and sometimes they don't get the credit they really deserve. And, without him, we'd have to be monitoring all this and saying, is the video ready to go? And it distracts from what you're doing. Also, just for fun, notice that we still had glitches. Jim fell off sound a couple of times, and Vince was playing with the walk around mic on his iPhone. There are going to be glitches. I was on a webinar with a client the other day, and I'm the main enchilada, so to speak, and the internet went down twice. So for that period of time, I was absent for 7 minutes. By the way, yes, I'm going to have 2 internet providers as well, because that's our business now. That is our business. And even though I'm a California girl and I don't like that, Dagmar, it's the way of the future if you want to continue staying in this business and making money. So we need to look at those things. Did we miss any questions?
Dagmar had a question.
Please, unmute.
Yes, it's very similar to Jerry. I have the Rode mic and I was using camera the whole workshop to record it. There was no issue with sound. And then I got ambitious and plugged in the Rode mic for video testimonials from all of my clients, and none of the audio recorded. And I'm wondering if it has something to do with Jim talking about some cameras, outbound, inbound, technology not savvy, let's put it that gently. So what went wrong? Because I don't plug in a mic anymore into the camera.
There's too many options.
Yeah.
Of where it could be. Frankly, if you want to improve whatever you're doing with your Zoom meetings, if you just want to take it up a level, whether that's from free to just getting a good microphone, whatever those steps are, this is why we're in NSA. The best thing you could do is ask those that have already done it. Vince, Yoram were all really big helps of getting my head on straight of even what this needed to look like, to conceptually understand what I need to do and what could make it look better. So ask for help. That's the most critical piece with this, because that's all of us have talked about how somebody else helped us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Really
you.
important. Thank you, Dagmar. And Eduardo, one last question, and that was, Jim, what kind of software do you use for switching between scenes?
It's in the OBS software.
Okay.
Now, there's a couple options you have. One of the options you can have in some of these systems is you can buy a little switching box, and that would allow you some views, but it doesn't give you as much flexibility as using the software does, like an OBS or Prezi or Ecamm, because it's built into that. Ecamm, the software does the green screen separation. The software allows you to rearrange. I can move images here. Like on this, I can move my image pretty much anywhere I want, and I can crop it and move it around so that I can build in several scenes to be able to say, yeah, I can put myself on the bus, or I can put myself in the Zoom meeting to make a point that that's not what they want, or to bounce around and just to keep positioning myself in different ways. And so it's just hitting the buttons that are hotkeyed programmed, but that's all within the software. So to do that kind of flexibility, Ford's sakes on Monday nights of Forum, he was using software that had that control, so he could put himself in a frame and move stuff around and switch it on the fly. The whole thing is, the real question to me is, how much flexibility do you need in your visual support? So if you're doing keynotes and you're doing it for thousands of people, but it's kind of a one-time shot, you don't need to have all this flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going back sometimes week after week to the same people. So I have to change it up just because of that. So it's really what you need, the tool to fit what you're doing with your business.
Thank you. And with that, I think our evening is over. So thank you for joining us. Tim, any last words?
Who, me?
Meaning just for tonight, not forever, of course.
Tim
Thank you for
There you
that.
go. You
I
got
was
too many
worried.
Tims on here. You know, don't open up and say Tim. You know, I'm ready to speak over here.
Oh,
There you go.
Like,
We're
yeah,
gonna
how
stay
long do I
around.
got? So
We're going to stay around and answer questions, by the way. So don't sign off if you're on. We're happy to stay and answer your questions.
I'd like to say I'm always amazed, but I'm really not, because I really understand how much talent and knowledge we have that we share within this chapter. And so I just got to tell you, I'm grateful that I'm in this chapter. I talk to people all the time that are in different chapters, and they're going, what are you guys doing? Who's this? What's doing, what's the forum? What's a fireside chat? And to be able to sit down and go, well, Connie Podesta was here, and Vince was here, and Jim was here, and Yoram, and everybody is beginning to know Yoram around the country because he's posting all these videos of this just fantastic information. And I heard Nikki say it earlier, you don't realize it, but Yoram will spend 2 days on a video just to put it out to help us, because what he does is he keeps listening for what people are saying or problems that they're having. And he'll spend 2 days. I have lunch with him every so often, and he says, I just spent 2 days because we wanted to talk about OBS. That's the only thing I wanted to do. But he does the granular stuff too. So just so grateful for everybody and everybody sharing like they do. So anyway, I can't say it enough. So thank you guys very much, everybody, all the presenters, Nikki, Jim, for putting everything together, and for everybody. Just really value everybody being here. So thank you.
Thank you.
We
Bye,
value
everybody.
you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And by the way, the next Fireside Chat, I believe, is in January, but check our website. And you're going to learn from a real expert on how do you sit down and actually write a book. Not about the marketing, but sitting down and getting that baby from your head down on paper. So stay tuned.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. If anyone still has questions, we'll be here for a bit. Thank you. Happy
Good night, everybody.
Thanksgiving.
We're going to keep the recording going for the questions, thinking that anybody watching this might be interested in what's said.
Hey, Jim and Nikki, thank you so much. Officer Chris Beyond is here, Plano PD.
Hi, happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, thank you so much. Hey, I really struggle with the OBS, and so I spent about 6 weeks trying to figure it out, and I finally went to Ecamm Live, and Ecamm does the same type of thing. You can switch. So if there's anybody on a Mac who wants to know about Ecamm Live, I'd be happy to help them with that.
Awesome.
We tried to help one of our involved in Nikki's TV show. We tried to help one of her co-hosts, and he was trying to get OBS running on his Mac, and he couldn't do it. He had to back off. It just wouldn't connect.
Yeah, I gave up on the Mac too. I'm sure it's possible, but it's not worth the time.
Yeah, I was running OBS on the Mac for a while, but Ecamm is just so much easier, you know, to do and all that stuff. And you guys can always reach out to me because I'm sort of a Yoram. I'm sort of a geek when it comes to all this stuff. I've spent way more than all of you guys combined. I geeked out on this. This whole thing has just taken me to just crazy amounts of craziness. So
hey, I know that Malone has a question. You keep raising your hand kind of timidly.
Yeah, I'm not, thank you, by the way. This is something that Jim said, I think, but I'm not sure I understand. When we're talking about all this software to change scenes, I thought I heard you say it was video editing software, or is that something different?
That's different.
Okay.
The OBS software and the Ecamm and all that others is really just a production or switching software that allows you to project a finished image. See, one of the powers of using any of these software packages is that you remove yourself from the dominance of the customer's platform. See, a lot of times showing slides is a problem because of the platform they're using, and it has to format it and everything else. But when you're using this software, you send out a finished image, just like it was coming out of your camera untouched, of all the mixed slides and everything. So when a customer says, well, we got to talk about how to run slides on this, I'll go, no, if you can accept my image, I'll take over everything else.
Okay.
You know, hey guys, there is something that's occurred to me over the last few months here. And when I'm giving a keynote, when I'm supposed to be on, I'm the energy. Everybody else has just sucked the energy out of the entire Zoom call. And then they would bring in the hitter. That is the last time I'm going to be looking around going, well, switching and finding a slide and doing all that, the last time. And so I get Michelle, my wife, who's not a techie, but I said, all you have to do is press this advanced button over here. That's all you have to do. And so to have production support, whether that's at your home or it's somebody that's some of the big events, they already have that and they get the collateral. We do rehearsals. Every time I'm doing 1 hour, at least 1 hour rehearsals, sometimes 2 1 hour rehearsals to make sure everything's working, because it's just, there's too much at stake on a live event. And, but having a spouse or somebody to advance for you, if you're in a workshop like Jim would do, then it's perfect. I mean, he can say, you know, it's a 3-hour thing, right, Jim, or whatever you're doing. And he can look down and say, okay, you know, what you see here on this slide or whatever. So that works for a workshop, but a keynote or anything where you're supposed to be on, I can't do it. And I highly advise anybody trying to step up and try multitask when you're supposed to be completely present with that message and speaking. So,
and there's a second part of it too. And that is, and it's one of the things Bruce has done for us, both for the forum and for the Fireside Chats, is that he's monitoring. So if we had a Zoom bomber come on that started screaming obscenities or something, he is ready and waiting, so he would immediately throw them off. We don't have to go, oh my God, what's happening, and find out who it is. He is looking for somebody to invade us. He's kind of the defender at the gate of going through this. He also admits people as they come on that signed on late, so that of us doing the program, we can release ourselves of that. So that even with customers, I talk to them about who is going to take that responsibility, because it's become a foundation.
And by the way, because I'm on this kind of stuff so often, what I have found is that a lot of folks are not giving an automatic link to someone when you're registering. They send the link afterwards, after you've confirmed that you're there for that particular program. Again, to save on the security issues, because we've been Zoom bombed. It was not pretty. And so those are things that we not fun. Anyway, things that we need to be careful about. One of the questions that Dagmar asked is, does she need to find a husband? And Vince, this was a response to you with Michelle. Does she need to find a husband to help her with her slides? Dagmar, there are kids who can do this better than we can.
The cost of the husband coming just to get slides is not worth the.
Yeah, no, that's an opportunity cost thing. Yeah.
Husbands are too expensive. You don't want to go that route.
No husband.
No husband.
Online romance scams. You gotta watch out.
Have we finished with questions? Any more questions?
One real quick. So Chris and Vince, so Ecamm is Mac only, yes?
Yes.
So is there a Windows alternative to OBS?
Prizzy.
Yes.
Prizzy.
There's one called vMix. There's a group of people called Live Streaming Pros, and that's all they do. And they train people how to get online. So Live Streaming Pros talks about vMix, and vMix is kind of an alternative is for PCs, where the Ecamm Live is for Macs.
And you can also watch Live Streaming Pros to learn all about Ecamm, because they do a lot of Ecamm videos as well. Plus they have a store you can buy your lower 1/3 and some of the other stuff that you can get out of there. And Vince, I would tell you to check out Elgato Elements. It might be a good place to put some of that stock footage and sounds. They import some off of Audio Jungle and all that stuff. It's pretty good place.
Yeah, Elgato, is that free?
It's like $16 a month, I think.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a great place to check it out.
Mm-hmm. And Shutterstock for photos.
Yeah.
Has anybody tried Camtasia video editing software?
Yeah, I have it.
What do you think of it?
I love it. It's great for the purpose. It's for screen capture, really. It's a great product.
I use ScreenFlow for that, and you can go in and edit your videos. A lot of times Ecamm's made it really simple where you don't have to go back and edit it. But if you want to capture the screens, sometimes you can do ScreenFlow. Some of these softwares, a lot of times you can do that if you're broadcasting now that Zoom is shutting down where you can't play, videos and stuff like that. What you do is go into ScreenFlow and you capture that in your ScreenFlow, save it on a file on your computer. Then you can still play that video, and you're not getting shut down on a lot of those things. And you never know if it's going to be flagged by some people, but that's your video. It's not technically, but you can still play it, and it's not going to come up as a black screen. And that's the worst thing you ever want to do in your training or presentation from that standpoint. So.
Thank you for that, Tim.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Any other comments or questions? All right, then with that said, thank you, everybody. Have a very blessed and safe Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining us.